Let's start with this one. I'm going to give you what I think is probably the foundation of this team this year. And you mentioned in the trenches. So let's go there. D tackle between, Robert Cooper and Fabian Lovett. Do you think that's where this team is really anchored, especially on the defensive side with those two and the rest of the defensive front?
Yeah, I was in a conversation in a group chat on Twitter earlier today with a lot of FSU fans, and we were kind of discussing. They were asking my point on what I think Florida State is going to do wins wise and all that kind of stuff. And I'm kind of just throwing out some guesses here and there until we really dive in and start really projecting those wins once we get closer to fall camp. But I point blank told him, I think this defense is going to carry Florida State, and the forefront of this, literally and figuratively, is going to be that defensive line with Fabian Lovett and Robert Cooper. And I don't even want to sleep on the two others that I think are going to play a big time factor for Florida State's defensive line, with Malcolm Ray and also Jarrett Jackson. Jarrett Jackson having a really impressive spring, to me, I think might have been the most impressive. I kind of already know what I'm going to get out of Lovett and Cooper, but to look at Jarrett Jackson, what he did this spring camp, I think he might have been my star out of that defensive line and that interior. At least I thought he had a really, really good camp in both leadership capabilities and his actions, but when it came to the field and his physicality, his nastiness, we didn't really see a lot of that last year, at least through his couple years now in Tallahassee. We already saw what kind of Malcolm Ray was able to do last year and taking that next step. Fabian Lovett saying, hey, Coach Ed Higgins, I want to have Malcolm Ray get in there and get some more reps, and he ended up on an away game, wanted him to start. So I think this whole Florida State defensive line is something that is going to carry this team. If you're going to look against facing some good quarterbacks, which they will do this upcoming season, you're going to want to have to get after the quarterback, but primarily at interior. And then you go on the outside with Jared Verse, and you've got Derek McLendon now, who DMAC, I thought, has had all these different kind of chances, but you bring in Jermaine Johnson, you bring in Keir Thomas, that ruins your chances on the outside. He was more of kind of a hybrid guy of the inside and outside once arriving at Florida State. If you guys remember, wearing number 55, he'd make some little splash plays here and there, be like, oh, who's 55? Hasn't really gotten his full opportunity to just full send it now. And the staff allow him to take off the leash and give him the opportunity to be a starter. I'm excited for DMAC. He's thinned up. He's put on some good muscle. He's lost some of that fat, might have been slowing him down. But, on the other side, you got Jared Verse, who I think has a gigantic high ceiling. And if those two on the outside, along with the interior guys, can do what they need to do, I think this is one of, if not the top defensive lines in the ACC this upcoming season. It's going to carry this team quite a bit. It's going to carry this team to wins. And they did that last year a few times. We saw what they did to Miami at home, and that played a big part and taking down the Hurricanes. And I think that's going to be even, and, I listened to one of the spaces on Twitter that Jared Verse was in, and Fabian Lovett was in one last night with the Rising Spear, that NIL collective. They both have just got huge excitement for thinking this defensive line is going to be better than last year. And I think everybody agrees on that. This team on the inside should be a lot better, and just continue to grow there, because now I think you have 4 potential starters in the ACC now in your fold in depth, and you can shuffle them around as much as you want. And that's going to be a huge key for Florida State, flexing guys in and out throughout games and keeping guys fresh and healthy. And, you can still throw in, a guy like Joshua Farmer, too, who's a young guy, hasn't had a lot of PT yet, but has really developed with his size this last offseason once arriving, and seeing him this spring. That's a big guy. So, yeah, the trenches, at least on the defensive side, this is what's going to carry Florida State, I think, in 2022.